WTO and IMF acknowledged Trump's warnings on trade imbalances amid global economic shifts. Leading international economic organizations, including the World Trade Organization, WTO, and the International Monetary Fund, IMF, have echoed President Donald Trump's concerns about global trade imbalances and over-reliance on the United States. Their recent statements highlight a shifting global economic landscape and validate some of the administration's trade policy positions. Kristalina Georgieva, IMF Managing Director, emphasized that persistent external surpluses and deficits create fertile ground for trade tensions, aligning with Trump's long-standing critique of unfair trade practices and imbalanced economic relationships. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, WTO Director General, warned that overconcentration in trade partnerships, whether in sourcing or markets, makes economies vulnerable to shocks and fosters perceptions of unfair burden sharing, echoing U.S. concerns about excessive dependence on American markets. Both organizations noted that the era of the U.S. as the dominant global consumer may be ending, with calls for other countries to assume greater responsibility for driving economic growth and correcting imbalances. The IMF and WTO highlighted how large trade imbalances and concentrated supply chains contribute to rising trade tensions, which have been exacerbated by the Trump administration's tariff policies. The WTO forecasted a decline in global trade volume for 2025, attributing the downturn partly to tariffs and trade policy uncertainty, while the IMF indicated it would soon issue revised economic growth forecasts reflecting these challenges. President Trump's tariffs and reciprocal trade measures aim to address what he describes as horrendous imbalances that have eroded U.S. manufacturing and national security, a stance now partially validated by these international bodies. Stephen Moran, chair of the Council of Economic Advisors, has called for improved burden sharing globally, a view supported by IMF and WTO leaders who advocate for more balanced and resilient economic policies worldwide. The organizations warned that rapid changes in global trade dynamics could disproportionately harm the most vulnerable nations, which may lack the capacity to adjust quickly to shifting trade patterns. The convergence of views between the Trump administration and major global economic institutions could influence future trade negotiations and policies, encouraging a rebalancing of trade relationships and a reassessment of global economic dependencies. This alignment signals a significant moment in global economic discourse, where traditional free trade advocates recognize the legitimacy of concerns about trade imbalances and the need for a more balanced and sustainable global trading system.